Hey, everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Strand Tennis Center podcast, filled with tips, advice, tennis, not tennis, just life advice too, whatever you need. Like it on YouTube, share it on the podcast as well. Thank you. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Strand Tennis Center podcast today. We're lucky to have another guest. My wife actually discovered Greg Quizell at online at Tennis Coaching Greg. He just started doing mental toughness coaching, psychology coaching online, and started posting videos, DMing people, and helping them. It was a great discussion about mental toughness, understanding what you do at certain situations. It was also a great discussion on how you can create a whole business just online. It's an incredible thing. He created this whole thing online. He is coaching at a physical facility in Vancouver, but it really is amazing how you can create something from zero just by posting videos and just by really trying to give people information and really caring. So I hope you enjoyed the discussion I had with Greg. And again, he's at Tennis Coach Greg. I want to make sure I get it right. At Tennis Coach Greg on Instagram. So hopefully everybody enjoy the conversation. Thanks. In progress. All right. Greg, you hear me?
Yeah,
Awesome.
all good to see you. How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
Yeah. I'm all good, thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time.
No, I appreciate you guys asking me. It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we're just going to cover soup to nuts. I like to jump all over the place. It'll be business, coaching, psychology, everything. I just kind of like to jump around and get a whole 360 view. I'll do an intro later, but we'll just start. And number one, my first question was, how did you transition? You were strength and conditioning to tennis. Were you doing strength and conditioning first? Or were you doing both at the same time?
So I've always been a tennis coach. So I've been coaching over 14 years now. So that has been constant throughout. I did strength conditioning first whilst I was tennis coaching, and then moved on to psychology after that.
Okay. When you started, were you teaching at Hertz Tennis first? Is that where you got your first job? Like, what was the little creation story of how you started teaching from playing? A little bit of a background on that.
Definitely, yeah. So I started coaching when I was like 16 or 17. I just sort of like kept getting injured and stuff. So I wanted to start coaching to earn some extra money. And then, yeah, just absolutely loved it. Went full time when I was 18. Started off with like 3-4 year olds.
That's awesome.
And then yeah, just kind of built myself up working with like national players, like younger under 12 national players and under 10 national players, to under 14, under 16 international players. And then yeah, just moved up like junior professionals, then adult professionals, and then yeah, that's pretty much where I am right now.
Did you go to college or higher university? Did you just go right to teaching, or were you doing both at the same time?
No, straight in from 18 straight into coaching.
Okay, so your first coaching gig, was it at Hertz? Where was it?
No, my first coaching gig was where I used to play when I was like 16. So just my local club. But my first full-time job was in Hertfordshire,
Okay.
at Legends Tennis Centre.
Okay.
I was there like 4.5 years, and I also went back to work there for a while. It's like an amazing place.
And I always say this in regards to psychology. Like, I had to learn everything afterwards, after school. I started reading a ton of books after I got out of school. You know, leave it to me to not know anything, and then you read a bunch. What made you get into psychology? Was it teaching players? Was it saying, oh, my God, what are going on with these problems with kids? Why can't they perform at this particular time? Was it the kids themselves, or were you always into psychology?
Yeah, so I've had a massive interest in it in my own personal life. Just like self-development and all that sort of stuff. I found it really, really interesting. But then I started working with players, um, and like I kind of went through a big like problem solving journey like with my coaching, because I obviously started off as a tennis coach, right? But then, I was finding that, technically they're good, tactically they're good, but they keep getting injured. So, I had a big passion for fitness in my life as well. So I went through the whole road of like strength conditioning. But then after that, I was like, they're fit, they're technically good, they're tactically good, but like they're just mentally falling apart. So I kind of went through that journey, worked with quite a few sports psychologists over the years, and yeah, that's kind of like how I started like really getting into it. Like I wanted to make more of a difference, potentially make it more tennis specific. Because I feel like there's a lot of sports psychologists out there that are not necessarily tennis specific, but they're sport psychologists, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So yeah, that would be the main sort of way I got into it.
So, speaking of psychology, growing up, you're 16, you're 17, you decide to tell your family, whoever it is, that you want to do this. How is that whole dynamic? You know, it's not the easiest thing to say, I'm not going to go to school, I'm going to do this and that. How did that work? How was that? Was it difficult? Was it a difficult process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So essentially, like, being completely open and honest, like I never got on with school.
I hear
School
you.
was never the place that I was going to flourish. And every like the the most of education that I've had that I now have is has been after school. So essentially, like my parent, like I've been playing tennis since I was 5. So like my parents pushed me to stay in school until I was 18, and then after that, they knew that getting into debt to go to university, like in the UK, was just pointless for me. So they very much supported me in terms of moving into tennis coaching. They knew I loved it. And I knew I loved it by 18 because I'd done a couple of years of coaching and stuff. So I just saw it as like, and even now I still feel like I get paid for like just doing what I enjoy and my hobby, if that makes sense. I still
That's,
love it. So yeah.
well, that's everything. If you're enjoying what you're doing and you love it and you're excited about it, you're going to help people. People are going to see that and notice it, and they're going to feed off of that. So you decide at 18 you're going to teach. You get your first job. How do you end up in Spain at Soto, that academy you're at?
Yeah, so I went. I've been a few places. So I got back from. I spent a couple of years in Australia, and then I've been back in the UK for a few years, working again at Legends Tennis Centre where I got my first job, and then essentially I felt like I really wanted to start like pushing myself. I wanted to start like traveling to like academies specifically. And they had an opening for a tennis coach and a strength conditioning coach. So at the time, I was both. So to them, I was like a dream hire, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, yeah.
I was lucky enough to work with some people who recommended me who Dan Kinnan knew. Um, so yeah, it was like the perfect fit essentially. I that's how I started there, and yeah, I absolutely loved my 3 months there. It was very I got to travel and work with some unbelievably good players and coaches. It was just, yeah, a great experience.
So being that you're 18, you travel around, you bounce around. We'll talk about mentorship too. Who was and employees and work? Who was your best boss, and who do you feel was your best mentor through this whole process?
I would definitely say um, Teresa Lilly and Nicole Jones. So they were my two bosses and managers at my first job at Legends. Teresa now does all the stuff at the county stuff for Hertfordshire. And Nicole is still managing director at Legends Tennis Centre. They have just had like such a massive influence on my life, have given me so many opportunities that have just like, yeah, sent me off on the trajectory that I'm on. So by far and away, those two have been unbelievable.
Give me
The best,
give me one or two or three things that you would like to be as a mentor and what you've gotten from them, you think?
yeah, I think for in terms of them, like they for me they struck such a good balance between being open and honest and fair and like really growth mindset, but also like being very like because I was young, like I was young when I first started there, like being very strict in terms of like the guidelines that I needed to be in, right? So I was never like a late person, like it was never anything like that, but like when you're younger, like you potentially are less professional and
Sure.
you push boundaries, and like I felt like it was just nothing like school. Like they just had such a good balance with that. I to this day love them both. Like they're just amazing. And yeah, I think I was very, very fortunate for me to fall into that job. when I was 18, because I think that could have that developed my passion for like performance as well. Like I went in, like I started that as just like a coach. Like I had a little bit of a playing background, but nothing special. So I think if I had started anywhere else, it could, my life could look very different right now.
So do you think mentorship is more actions than words? Because I always say this about my family. My we have a garage, and my wife will leave some garbage outside the door, right, of the garage, and my son will just start doing that too. No matter what, if you tell him to put it in the garbage can, it doesn't matter. Whatever he sees, was it them just being so professional? Was it them being just so dedicated to what they did that motivate you, or was there something specific? You were saying I wasn't ever late. Was there any one moment where you're like, they told me, boy, you got to dress better, whatever it is? Was there any specific moment? I'm always curious about mentorship because it's key with coaching, and it's key with how you're going to lead kids and how you're going to influence them and make them not just better players but better people. Was there any specific instance you were like, oh shit, I've got to step this up?
I would say there was a single moment like that, because I think and I couldn't explain to you why, but I've very much naturally been like, I wanted to develop myself. So I was a big believer in the fact that if someone told me something, like I get like, they tell me once and it happens. I very much like that. And in response to something you said there, like, I believe this to be a psychological fact. It's you don't assess people based off what they say. It's what they do.
Sure.
So your beliefs and values are not through what you say. You can say whatever you want. It's what you do to back that up. And they always did what they said they were going to do.
Yeah.
And again, that was another great message to get as a young adult. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, authenticity is huge. Elon Musk's book by Walter Isaacson was great. He just said, when I hire people, I can't do a brain transplant. You have to hire them for a certain amount of, like you said, I have a certain amount of self-motivation. I want to do this, this, and this. And the job you can teach them. You can't really teach them, I guess, their attitude or how to behave or responsibility. It's got to be innate a bit. You got to have somebody that wants to meet you halfway. If you have a 400 hitter in baseball, you don't teach them how to swing. You just put them in the right position to succeed. So, I get what you're saying. It seems like you're already self-motivated. It was just great to be around people that will push you in that right direction. So Definitely. you go from one spot to the other. How do you get? We'll go quick because I'm gonna jump around. How did you get to the point where you started your own academy? Where did you feel like? Where does it come to the point where you're like, hey, I can do this on my own. I can start something from 1 and build it to 2 to 4 to 8 to 12. Where did that jumping point come off? Was it a moment, or were you just like, it just kind of happened? Some people, you just kind of fall into it, it just happens, or was it a distinct decision to say, all right, I'm going to take this risk to start my own academy?
Yeah, so it was actually a moment. So like essentially I was in Spain. I was at Soto. I was traveling with a young girl who was just trying to get her first few points on the tour. And I'd worked with people similar up until then, but I never realized when I was like at the tournament and stuff, I never realized how many players just didn't have any sort of strength and conditioning coach or psychology support. So I was like, okay, like I was very, I just started getting into crypto. So I was feeling very entrepreneurial, and
Yeah.
I was just like, look, I want to start my own thing. And at that point, this was a couple of years ago now. So like at that point in my life, I didn't care if I failed. Like I just went for it. And so it actually started off as me offering strength and conditioning and psychology. But then when I started my Instagram page and I'm just like DMing all the pros and stuff, like on qualifiers and pre-qualifiers and then on the tour, like everyone is asking me like, oh, I don't want the strength conditioning, but what about the psychology? So then I was like, oh, okay, well, this is the area that I'm more interested in anyway. This is the response that I'm getting from people. So yeah, I just literally decided to just go for it there and then, and that was it.
Okay, so we'll get specific on this because I like to talk about the business end and your Instagram. You're quite popular on it. And that's how my wife discovered you, to be quite honest with you. She said, this guy Greg is great, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I started to listen. I said, very interesting, great things that he's doing. So did you, when you were working for Soto, just starting to post things on Instagram? Is that how it started? And you were kind of like, okay, and at the same time, I'm going to DM people directly. And was it first? Was it you got responses? Give me the process of how that whole started.
Yeah. So I didn't actually start the Instagram account until later in that year. So I was then in Marseille, a French academy, when I actually started filming. So for the longest time, so to be as a bit of more of a background on me, like I've not posted on my own personal social media in about 10 years. It's not something I sort of engage in, but I did look at a lot of educational stuff on my own personal Instagram. So I didn't post, but I was still on it. And I had essentially no idea how to advertise myself. I knew that Instagram was free. And at the time, I wasn't a massive fan of putting myself out there.
Sure.
I did not like the idea of starting an Instagram account. It's something that I pushed myself to do. And so, yeah, so when I was in France, that's when I started filming, started uploading stuff and just like problem solving that whole process. And I knew that the only way that I was gonna be able to properly advertise myself is if I started messaging pro players. And I kind of took like the whole Tesla model, like Elon Musk model, is where like you sell to the top, you sell like your top percentage stuff, and then you start moving down that way.
Sure.
Instead of trying to go for like, broad and then work up. So I targeted pro players. Those were the players that I wanted to work with anyway. That's where like I was getting a lot of my enjoyment from. Only because those were the players that wanted to progress the most. I still enjoy working with people who aren't pro players as long as they have the drive to want to get better. So yeah, just like messaging people, trying to do more videos because I knew that got more reach and stuff. So yeah.
So, and by the way, I know you say you don't like social media, but it's at Tennis Coach Greg if everybody wants to go to it. It's great. It really is informative, very helpful. So that's a great point you make. Most people X themselves out of the top people. People don't reach out to, even Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all these people because they say everybody's reaching out to them. And it X's out 80% of the people that don't. So, yeah, reach out for the highest people first because they're actually not as inundated as you think because they have so many filters anyways. But so we were reaching out to people. What was the reach out that you felt like, I'm making a connection, or was it just a critical mass? You were like, I'm getting a lot of responses here, a lot of info. When did you start helping people that you felt like I can start doing this on my own? Like, so you're in France, you're in Marseille. When do you feel like, I have enough of a thing that I can kind of do this myself? Was it just organic? Did it take 6 months? Did it take a year? And I always tell everybody, success is a lagging indicator. It'll take 10 years to be good at anything. So don't feel like it's going to happen tomorrow. So when did you feel like, I can start QPA Academy? That's what it is, everybody. It's QPA Pro Academy. So when did you feel like, all right, I can do this on my own? When was that moment?
Yeah, so yeah, I agree with everything you said there. Like I delay gratification, like as Alex always say, he says, the longer you can delay what you want, the more success you'll have. So if you can wait 5 years, you're gonna have way more success than if you wait a year, right? So I essentially, like, my goal to begin with was I wanted 1,000 followers, and I gave myself 5 years to do it.
Awesome.
Right? Because I was like, at bare minimum, I can just meet that many people and just be like, look at my Instagram. So yeah, I started off like that. I didn't see anything happen for the first 8 months. It was when I first got to Canada when I first got to Canada was when a couple of my reels started gaining some pace. I started getting a lot more followers. I went from 700 followers to like over 10,000 within a few weeks and months. And that's when I had people messaging me. I had stopped messaging out people. That was when people were messaging me at that point.
Awesome.
So that success happened so much quicker than I ever thought it was going to. And I was certainly ready to keep going for many more years after that without seeing any of that.
Now, there's no game. Everybody's like got this hack and game plan. Are you not thinking about when you're posting or when you're putting it out or when you're doing it? Are you just kind of like, is there anybody helping you? You still doing this all on your own, or do you have any sort of game plan? Hormozy's great too, by the way. I mean, he'll just say, just do more, outwork anybody, just outwork. I will always outwork you. It doesn't matter. He's great. But go ahead. If you can answer that,
Yeah.
I'm quite interested.
Yeah. No, I'll answer all that. So essentially, like, my first thing was that I wanted to provide as much value as possible. So my two things were making sure that I am niching down as much as I can. So it's literally tennis psychology. And I was aiming for pro players, because if I know I'm good at explaining things. So if I can explain it I can explain it in a simple way that will benefit a pro player, but it'll also benefit everyone beneath that, right? So it was very specific, my niche, and the highest quality that I could do to begin with, right? So that was like 2-3 posts a week, sorry. And then I started getting better. So that whole process of me doing that was just getting better, making the video shorter, making it better edit. So eventually I got a video editor.
Awesome.
And then this year is when I started posting every day. So I don't currently have anyone. I have my sister helping me. She helps me post videos.
That's great.
But apart from that, I pay a video editor on Fiverr, and my sister's helping me. The rest is I'm very much in the transition stage of getting more people to help me.
Awesome.
Because it's just getting a bit too much.
So where's the physical academy located? Like, where are you physically teaching now?
So there's no physical academy. It's all online. Like the actual like Quinnell Pro Academy, that's all online. But I am currently still on court coaching at an academy in Vancouver in Canada.
Oh, okay, awesome. Because I'm having trouble following because there's so many different spots here. How long have you been in Vancouver right now?
So I've been here in the start of January. I actually just moved out here. So I'm born and bred from London. So I'm there like a couple of months a year, but this is where I'm living at the moment.
Okay. So now back to the mental side, which people always need help, psychology side. All the kids you've taught, everybody you've been exposed to, if you can, I know it's hard to generalize because I always say one size fits one, not one size fits all. So everybody's different. But in general, what are the kind of top keys someone needs to be to feel a little bit more confident in pressure situations? I always say you're supposed to feel nervous under pressure, but how do you handle that? What's the best tools to handle that in a pressure situation?
Yeah. So I think from what I've seen, obviously in the time that I've been doing this, is that confidence seems to be the biggest thing that people struggle with. There is anger and frustration issues, but I've actually found that to be quite simple to solve with people. It seems to be the easiest thing. The main part is, like you said, the confidence side of things. So there's a few things to know here. The first is that when you are talking about a specific scenario where you have pressure, right? You cannot, if this is your confidence and this is your nerves in that specific scenario, you cannot reduce the amount of nerves that you have. You have to increase the confidence that you have in that specific scenario so you feel more confident than you do nervous. Okay, so that's one thing to remember. How you can actually do that in that specific scenario, essentially, the biggest thing that I would say is that you have to get very good at managing your thoughts. So you cannot control the thoughts that come into your mind, right? Because I could say or do anything to you right now that would make you think something. I could say pink elephant wherever I want, right? Yeah. And your ears are open, your eyes are open, and you can see things. But you can manage the thoughts that you have once they're there, okay? So the biggest thing for me would be, being very aware of the thoughts that you're having. You can solve a problem 50% just by knowing what the problem is. So being self-aware of the thoughts that you're having. So you know what's going on and you know what you don't want to think and what you do want to think. But then from there, getting very good at managing them. Okay. In terms of becoming more confident in that scenario, one of the biggest messages that I'm sending to everyone right now is that, and I'll tell it in terms of a story, right? If you had a character that you were controlling, right, on a video game, okay? And in this video game, you're controlling the character, and this character can run 100 miles an hour, okay? But every time you play with this character, each game that you play with this character, sometimes it runs 20, sometimes it runs 70, sometimes it runs 50, because it's giving a different amount of effort each time, right? So most people, when I ask them, would you have confidence in playing with that character? They say no, because they're getting an inconsistent outcome each time. And the same goes for yourself. If you are giving a different amount of effort towards what you can control, you are going to have less confidence in yourself. So if you know that when the pressure comes, right, I just don't even try. I don't even try to do what I want to do out there. Then you're going to lose confidence in yourself in that specific scenario. You can gain confidence in yourself just from trying to do what you're doing and failing, because you cannot get better at something that you do not try to do. So all you have to do is just do it. Even if you fail, you do it, then you do it again, then you do it again, and then you get better slowly that way.
Yeah. We always say the answer's in the actions, and attitude and effort are the two biggest things here, what we teach to the kids. We always say you can have a great result even if you lose, if your attitude and effort's good. And if you win, your attitude and effort's bad, that's a bad result. So it's all about what you can control. And controlling your attitude and effort is the only things you can do. You'll see interviews, and you'll know this with pros and professionals. They won't even say they're going to win or lose. They will say, I will create maximum effort, and whatever the result may be, may be. So it's true. You can't control this. There's a great book, I don't know if you've read it, called The Confident Mind by Nate Zinzer. He's West Point. He's their psychological coach. Fantastic book about controlling your thoughts and your visualization. He's just spending time doing hours of visualization with one track star, just walking around saying, I'm a 156. That's what I'm going to do time-wise. I'm going to do that. This is what you are. He calls it the doorway technique. Every time you go through a doorway, you're supposed to create an affirmation and just say what you are. And we always tell the kids, don't tell me what you want to be, tell me what you are. If you want to be number one in your school, I am a number one player at my school, instead of I hope to be number one, I wish to be number one. And we find that the kids are very cloudy. When I tell them, what do you want? They say, I want to be better. I say, well, that's like saying, do you want more money? And I give you $1. So it's not very specific, so to be very clear. What do you feel? Have you ever, and we've talked to this, from a lot of professional athletes as well, is certain amount of this innate? Are there some kids that are just tougher than others, or is it more upbringing, or can you create a psychologically, mentally tough person that necessarily doesn't have those instincts?
Yeah. In direct answer to that question, yes. I'm a big believer in that anyone is capable of whatever they want, right? Like in terms of like the nature and nurture argument, like you cannot control nature. So there's loads of stuff on like how you need environment to actually input into genes for them to even activate, right? So like, it's always a constant backwards and forwards between the two, but in my personal opinion, that's just something you can't control. It's what you have or what you don't have. So you focus on the environment, the nurture side of things. And I'm a big believer in that anyone can do 10 times more than what they think the best is they could ever possibly achieve.
Yeah.
And in terms of my own experience in that, I've had players where like I've just thought like, God, like I just don't know if it is ever gonna happen, like psychologically, are you ever just gonna sort of get this? And at least twice I've been blown away by kids like that, and they have. So I just think that you constantly have to give your best, never give up on people, but at the same time, you need to hold them accountable for their side of it as well. They have to be putting in, what they're doing. And I found that the best way to do that is always let them know that you're on their side. Taking that dictatorial like kind of standpoint just doesn't help. And I'm working with people all over the world online, right? I can't take that standpoint because they just won't speak to me.
Yeah.
They don't go there, they'll just stop speaking to me. So like, it's funny because I've actually found that a better way of doing it than potentially the way I used to coach when I was younger, which was that very, dictatorial kind of like, do this, if that makes sense.
So So explaining the online academy, how is it working? Are you had mentioned in our correspondence and email that you were developing a new coaching program for coaches. Are you working with coaches? What's the percentage coaches and players online, and what is that process, and what is the new process you were talking about? We can get into it.
Yeah, so I'm not working for any coaches right now. I'm currently developing like a methodology for how tennis coaches can actually support players mentally. Because I found through my own development and obviously working with hundreds of different coaches, maybe thousands over the years, like, no, probably hundreds, coaches just really struggle like how to coach someone mentally, like when they're getting frustrated on the court or they feel nervous. I feel like there's not many things like and in coach education as well. Like when you look at the coach education in Canada where I am now and also the UK, like within the coach education, there isn't much on how to coach players mentally. And what there is, I feel like could be better. So it's something I'm currently developing right now and trying to put it in a way where I can educate other coaches to do it. So that is very much like a longer term vision for me. And then I hope to have a big enough business, whereas if they do that, they can come work with me. And then all of a sudden they can get hours off of the court as well. Okay. So it's not like they're grinding out 40, 50, 60 hours on the court. It's like you can actually earn more money than what you're earning on the court, and you can sit from your laptop.
Sure.
And potentially make more of a difference in players' lives than you are on the court. Like there's some people I work with, I've never seen hit a ball, but and they've told me, and their parents have told me, and the adult players that I work with, like I've made such a difference in their lives and obviously on the court.
So I'm very interested in how the process goes. You have a student, they're across the country, across the world. Did they send you a video? Did they send you clips of their stuff? How does the process work online with you helping them out? I'm very curious.
Yeah. So there'll be like a onboarding process. So it'll be like a 30 to 60 minute sort of screening session where I take them through a load of assessment questions. There's also a questionnaire after that. Okay. And then from there, that helps me figure out where I would start them in the system that I use to improve players. Okay. So I tackle the one or two big areas that they need, which is normally frustration, nerves. And the other big area that I tackle is tactics, because that is massively on the psychological side of what as well. So it'd be one of those three big areas, but then I also look to improve them holistically as well. So can I improve them 100 different ways, 1%? So that'll be their sleep, their nutrition, their fitness, what they're doing, daily habits, morning and evening routines, before and after matches, all the stuff they need. I help some people like plan their day, like schedule their day. So a lot of it is like life coaching in that sense as well. And then I'm also like a big believer in measuring as much as we can. So you can't improve what you don't measure. So if it's anyone who can have someone come with them to matches, just match charting as much as you can, tactically, technically, mentally. Are we tracking their sleep? Are we tracking their habits? I have a focus drill that is a measurable way of seeing if their focus is improving. A relaxation drill that is a measurable way of seeing if their relaxation on the court is improving. I also talk with coaches, get them in a group. Parents, that's a big thing if the parents are still involved in their tennis. So that would be how it would look. And like I said, using all of that, I don't even need to see them hit a ball to make a massive difference. There is 24, like I have sessions with players as well. There is a big amount of support outside of the session. So it's not just the sessions off you go. If they want to call me before a tournament, after a tournament, they can. If they want to, I would ask them to send me as many videos as they can, because obviously if I see them play, that helps, right? So I would ask them to WhatsApp me videos. I've watched players live, like, when it's been streamed on TV, like even non-professional tournaments, they've got there's some cool technology coming out where I can watch players like under 14s. I watched the boy in America the other day. So yeah, that would be a rough outline of how it works.
So how many, do you meet with them? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Do they meet as many times as they want to, or is there a process where they say, "Listen, Greg, I want to talk to you every day," or does it vary, or do you find yourself having these students want to talk more than once a week? I mean, is it what's the occurrence rate?
Yeah, so this has massively changed over the course of me doing this, and I would say that once a week is the most common. I would say that is where people get the most benefit from it. And it's normally an hour once a week, half an hour once a week if it's for so some of the younger players I actually recommend 2 half-an-hour sessions a week, because 1 hour is just too long for them to process things. Because I work with kids as young as 10.
Sure.
Like a 2 UTR, you know what I mean? And to be clear, like I said before, I love that just as much as working with an adult pro who's top 1,000 in the world, because they really want to learn. So yeah, I would say most commonly it's about an hour a week. I do get some people who just want sessions. They pay me just like session by session, and they just have them wherever they want. Those are, I would say, more adults, but yeah, most of the time it's quite regular.
Now, you wrote an ebook, Sleep Like a Top 10 Tennis Pro, right? A Top 10 Tennis Pro. So was that the major occurrence you thought while you're working with all these students? Is this why you wanted to write the ebook? And everybody should check it out. It's really good. I went through it. Was that one of the major topics? You said maybe I should write something more on this in regards to working with the students?
Yeah, so essentially it was two things. Number one, it was the first step of like creating my methodology, because you cannot improve how you psychologically perform in life or on the court if you are not sleeping well. Like Matthew Walker, the guy's unbelievable.
Yeah,
literally,
why we sleep, he's unbelievable. Yes, he is.
This guy's unreal. Like he literally proved that sleep is more important than food or water, and the way that he proved that was that the amount of like downside that you see to your body if you don't sleep for 48 hours, the things that happen to your body are far worse than if you don't eat or drink water for 48 hours. Far worse. So essentially, like if you're not sleeping regularly, that is the first thing that needs to happen in terms of developing players. So it was the first step in me like creating my methodology and getting that out there. But also like I just kind of wanted to again, like I'm one of the big reasons I started this is because I get a great sense of purpose from helping people. I get a great sense of happiness from helping people. So, you know, a lot of why I do what I do is like, because some of the stuff, like some of the things I put on Instagram, like on my videos, they're the most valuable thing that I could possibly give, right? But it's not what people want to see, right?
Sure.
It's not what like Instagram rewards. You know what I mean? It's not what everyone picks on. But at the same time, like, yeah, I want to help people as much as I can. So the people who want to listen to that, then I hope that I help them a great amount. And that was also, and that's why I give the ebook away for free, because, you know, I feel like it's one of, if you read the ebook and you implement what's in there, it will transform your life. Like sleep is that important.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a big area that I work on with players, that I maintain with players. It's the first thing I work on with them. It's the base level things. You look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like in terms of developing someone psychologically, sleep, food, water, being safe, having clothes, all of that stuff is all like base level stuff that you have to then move up the pyramid.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So do you find out of all the people you're working with, now, whether the honesty factor is up to them, are they getting enough sleep, these trained athletes, these ones that are traveling around, or do you feel like jet lag, all these things, and I know you were talking about jet lag, you know, if you're 2 hours difference, get there 2 days earlier. I remember all that. It was great. Very good advice. Are they getting enough sleep in general, who you're working with?
The full-time athletes, yeah, because they haven't got anything else to do. So if they're just playing tennis, then yeah, like a couple of guys that I work with, they absolutely nail their sleep. I find it's the younger athletes who are not getting the sleep, and the adults who are working. So any athletes who are at school or working, they're the ones not getting sleep because they're having to wake up early for training, school, work, whatever it is. But then they are just not going, they just like, you know, so one of the things I talk about in the ebook is when you're younger adults, younger children, your circadian rhythm, your internal body clock, is shifted to staying up later and waking up later, right? So that's what you naturally, like literally naturally want to do. You don't want, no matter how tired you are, you don't want to go to bed earlier, right? So they're staying up later, but then getting up early. So, like they're just getting 6 hours of sleep, 7 hours of sleep, these young kids, when it needs to be 9.5 plus. So overall, no, but the full-time athletes, yes.
Okay. Well, boy, we covered a lot of topics. So where is your goal? Like, Kevin Kelly had a great article called 1,000 True Fans. All you need is 1,000 true fans to be successful. Do you want to go deeper? You want to go wider? Are you looking to be on tour with one particular athlete? Or do you want to reach as many people as you can?
That's a great question. I think that I very much want to continue working with pro players, because I really want to see what I can do in that space. But at the same time, like I mentioned with you, like I'm developing like that methodology to help coaches, which will then help players. I think, I kind of want to say I'm trying to do both, right? I'm trying to, I know I get happiness from being loved very deeply, not widely. So I know that, I always prioritize my own relationship that I have with my girlfriend and my family and the people who are close to me. And I would carry that over to the people that I want to work with very specifically. But also at the same time, I want to try and, it's a big thing to say, I want to try and transform tennis, right? I want to try and really help as many people as I possibly can. And that's going to take time. And I'm willing, obviously, to put in the work, and I will.
It's the confident mind, right? It's the same thing. It's saying you got to say what you want, or if you don't say what you want, you can't even get close to it. Is it like Patrick Montague, where you want to have an academy and when you're working specifically with world-class athletes as well? Is that kind of the vision, where you have in the south of France, he's got a huge academy and he's traveling around the world working with players? That's all well and good. It's a great goal to have.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to have my own physical academy. Okay. I am currently at a place right now that I massively enjoy, and I will probably be here for the very foreseeable future. So I think what I'm working on right now with the guy who owns the academy is kind of integrating what I'm doing into the academy. And then in terms of traveling, I got a little bit sick of traveling when I finished up work, traveling on tour.
I get it.
So I still love traveling, but I would not travel full time on tour. With what I'm doing, I don't need to. I can work with everyone. Time difference is not a thing, something I overcome easily. And yeah, so I would still travel, but the vision is to stay here, travel a little bit, and help us. A few people, a massive amount, and then as many people as much as I possibly can.
So to go back to the Alex Hormozi, I'm glad you brought him up, because he sold his company 2021, a few of them. He was a gym owner, very successful, if everybody doesn't know who he is. But in that sense, you can create this entity, this academy, this huge thing that, could be... Because he doesn't have any physical entities anymore, right? He's owning companies, right? He's sold all his companies. So you really don't have to have a physical entity. And what he's created is he's created such a social media base that people are reaching out to him, like has happened to you. People are wanting to sell their companies to him, and he's evaluating those companies. It probably could be much of the same thing for you. You could keep working your social media, and people are reaching out to you, and you're getting clients just that way. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing. It seems like it's very similar. It doesn't really matter where you are physically. Obviously, talking about bosses and mentors, what we were just talking about before, which need to be great. If you got somebody that supports you over there, and it's letting you do your thing and letting it work with it, it's a great scenario for you. It definitely is. And I guess even though social media, we go back and forth on it and how great it is, but it's been the difference maker for you, I guess, in regards to... You can just create a whole business. We can go. I can go so many different ways with this podcast, which is so interesting. We talk business. We talk about helping the students. But you can help a ton of people, and you just started posting, reaching out to people, and all of a sudden you're creating a business just from square one, which you would have never been able to do 20 years ago. It's an amazing thing. I mean, how do you feel about it? I mean, what's your observation on just saying, hey, I went from zero and now I'm working with people that I've never met before physically?
Yeah, I think this is the constant talk about social media, right? It's like in some ways, in many ways, you know, our human brains are more negative than they are positive, right? So I think that, and the way that I can show you that is that, you know, losses feel way worse than wins feel good, right?
Sure.
So when you talk about social media, there's so much talk about how amazing it is, but there is obviously the big talk about how it's not. And that is one of the reasons why I just didn't post on my own personal one for so long. And I very, very, very much managed my algorithm in terms of what I wanted to see.
Sure.
If anyone doesn't know this, there's a little 3 buttons that you can press, and you can literally press on any video that you don't want to see, not interested or interested. And I very much managed my algorithm that way, and I still do it now. So you can manage what you want to see and what you don't want to see. And look, I think it's an amazing place, obviously, because of what I've done, right? You know, I've never paid to advertise what I'm doing. You know, that's unbelievable in itself. And I'm not even on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube yet. So for me, it's been amazing, but there is obviously that dark side. So like, honestly, like I don't massively recommend social media, especially for younger people. Yeah. But if you are gonna do it, just do that little thing that I just told you about and genuinely manage what you want to see.
Yeah, you have to be disciplined. You have to curate what you want. Like if I go on a social media thing, it's either all business or all tennis. It's not like it'll trail you off into wormholes that you'll all of a sudden be gone. And I agree. But you said you weren't on Instagram. That's how we found you. Are you on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure. I said, wait, am I talking to the right Greg? I mean, Jesus. I'm like, shit, it's the wrong Greg. No, but I totally agree. You've got to curate it. You've got to be very disciplined in what you're doing, because it could be a real negative. All of a sudden, 7 hours are gone. You don't even know what happened. But exactly. I think it's super fantastic, Greg. I think it's been a great conversation. I think it's been super helpful. I think our students will find it very helpful, especially the mental side we find on our end as well. Kids always, like you said, on the negative side, if you win $10, it feels a lot worse when you lose $10. It's just the way it is. And kids we had a tournament on Saturday, and kids were like saying everything in the negative, even when they say like, even when I get kids to try to say something positive, like I never double fault, I said, that's still a negative sentence. I said, tell me that your serve goes in 80% of the time. Double fault is a negative phrase anyways. And kids will say, like, I always choke under pressure. I said, well, then you're always going to choke under pressure. If you keep on saying that, your body's going to believe it and live up to it. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. And that's what people need a lot more now. So yeah. I really appreciate the time, Greg. It was awesome.
No, I appreciate it. It's been great to talk to you.
And I'll keep on reaching out to you. I'll bother you a little bit just to ask some questions if we have any. And if we're ever out in Vancouver, we'll definitely say hello.
Absolutely. If anyone ever wants to ask me questions, I will always answer them. It might take me some time to get back to you, so give me some time. Like I will. If anyone ever wants to ask anything, I always want to help as much as I can.
But super awesome. Congratulations on everything. And everybody, thank you for listening. The answers and the actions. Thank you for watching the Strand Tennis podcast today. And we'll speak to you soon. Thank you, Greg. It was awesome. Hey.
Thanks, man.
Hey, everybody. Hope you like the podcast. Please share it with your friends. Anybody that you know, anybody that's into tennis, anybody that's into bettering themselves, share it.